electoral laws that really work. And remember the Apex Court this year, after the presidential petition, and also in 2017 said that IEBC, you need to put your house in order. Well, that is what will be forming part of what we'll be discussing right now. And now, allow me to introduce my guest this morning, beginning with my immediate left. Well, talking about Parliament, he is a member of the National Assembly. He is Honorable Alpha Miruka, MP Bomachoge Chache. Karibu sana mheshimiwa.
Thank you very much.
Kamau?
Yes, sir.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Kamau is a leadership and governance expert, and we will be trying to put things into perspective in regards to what is currently happening in the country. Mheshimiwa, something that a lot of people don't see, looking at how you've dressed and looking at how you've come, you just you drove yourself. You didn't have the big convoys, you didn't have a huge security detail. Actually, you drove yourself here.
Yeah, that's my humble beginning. Taught me good lessons.
Okay.
This world you live alone, and the most important thing you must know about this life is what you do. The end product of what you do. If you do good, you invest good, you harvest good. Now, as a member of parliament, having a lot of convoy, I don't see it to me has any value. I've not messed up with anybody. I can drive myself, I can do my things, but in special occasions, I usually need them, and I use them.
Yes.
Yeah, because I'm a God-fearing man who believes that everything you do in this world, God has a reason and a purpose. Yes.
And you pass by just like any other Kenyan.
Yeah, I'm a normal Kenyan. The only difference between me and a normal Kenyan is I'm a member of parliament.
That's it.
Yeah, I'm working for the people of Bomachoge Chache constituents from Kisii County. But in another normal life, I'm a normal person. I go to any supermarket.
Yeah.
I do shopping myself. Yeah. Challenges we're facing as a country, it's affecting all of us. Yes.
And I would say it's quite commendable, Mheshimiwa.
Yeah.
To begin us, IEBC yesterday during their post-election review of how the 2022 elections were, they have put a blame on Parliament, saying that Parliament has not actualized a lot of legislation in regards to electoral reforms in the country. I would like to pick your mind on that.
They may be true to some extent. Remember, we have now hardly 3 months in the office. The current government is now putting every system in place. That means in this government, I'm sure we are going to deal with them. We are going to solve their problems. But remember last parliament, we had issues. The parliament of last time, it was a divided government. You remember at the midway, we had an handshake. I used to be in the 12th parliament. I'm now serving my second term. Now, after the handshake, things went haywire. Now, that's the reason why every government aspect, things were being delayed because of you remember, you know every aspect of the last government. But now in this Kenya Kwanza government, we have an able president who's focused. I'm sure as we hit next year, things are going to be in the right track. Yes.
And the Kenya Kwanza divide is hell-bent on ensuring that the IEBC, all the commissioners are out. And why I say this is because your majority leader did say that the best thing and the logical thing for IEBC commissioners to do is just to step out. Is it quite stepping aside, or is it being bundled out? Because at the end of the day, if this the report will end up in Parliament. JLAC had that report, and after the tribunal, Parliament will make a decision. And we know very well, we talk about the tyranny of numbers, these guys are gone.
Let me tell you about the commissioners. If you flash back about what happened the last general election, even me, I thought we had a very unified commission that was able to make sure that we are doing a very credible process of election. But immediately after presidential results were about to be announced, that's time we saw a divided commission. When Chepuka, the chairman, is in Bomas of Kenya, therefore the general team was in Serena Hotel. It clearly indicates that that was a divided commission. In fact, if we were not to took the hand of God, we were to be having a Kenyan which is split into two. But because I like now the way the opposition leader managed to behave himself, that we have managed to be here now. In that sense that we have a government now, today. To me, it's very noble. For them resigning, they understand why they are resigning. the best way is to resign. If you see that things are not working in the office well, you resign with your own reasons. But to me, it's high time now we have a new commission, not a divided commission, a commission which is independent, a commission which will deliver the minds and the interest of our Kenyans, that will not give us again a divided, an independent body that cannot be used with politicians, either president or an opposition leader, that can make independent decisions for our Kenyans. That's my prayer. That's the reason I'm supporting that. It's high time now that we form a new commission with new blood, new chairman, new people with new energy, new mindset that can lead us now to the right direction. We do away with this divided commission.
Another thing, Mheshimiwa, it's a good thing that you've said we need to clean up the IEBC and we need to have a united commission as opposed to a divided commission. We will be having new commissioners because looking at the way things are, we only have, Irene Masit is the only one left, because looking at the tenure of the other 3 commissioners, including the chairman, is just coming to the tail end. And if we decide, fine, we need to have a lean, clean IEBC that is not divided, what happens in 2027 if at all some of the people may decide, or some of the IEBC commissioners might decide to disagree? What that means is that Parliament could be able to sway or to control if we have to have them resign again. Because if you ask me, these guys have resigned because of pressure.
To me, I doubt it's not pressure. Let me explain one thing. We do a lot of stages in election. We start from an MCA, we do members of parliament, we do women reps, we do governors, senators. Where do we see dispute? It's only presidential election. And if you see the history of this Kenyan, our Kenya is our country. There is no single day since I started the voting, the only person who is against presidential elections, our right honorable Raila Amolo Odinga. There's no one. If we can have good people, let me tell you now.
Judging by the petitions that we have, they are from various people, including him.
No, let me tell you, it's high time. Once you lose it, you accept.
Okay.
And you accept this is my country, let's move on. And develop new strategies, develop new ideas for you again to convince voters for the next 5 years, for them to vote you in the next regime. And once you plan your things well, there is no single day you will win. And the IBC is there to announce results. It's not there to manipulate. No, it's there to tally. After tallying, they announce the winner.
It's as simple as that. Actually, the issue has been always in the adding. We don't have any subtraction. We're not using logarithm tables or something. But I would like to bring in Kamau now as a leadership and governance expert. From where you are looking at the IEBC, Parliament yesterday was blamed by IEBC in delaying some of the reforms in IEBC, because even the Apex Court pronounced itself and said we do need to have a keen look at the IEBC. But looking at how these commissioners have resigned, they're talking about pressure after so seeking, they were misinterpreted and misreported, and because of that they're stepping aside. But you and I know very well there's a lot of pressure. Looking at the majority leader, he said that the prudent thing that IEBC commissioners need to do is to step aside, and 3 have already done that. The good thing that Mheshimiwa here talks about, we need a clean and united IEBC. But what happens? We also have the tyranny of numbers, because if at all anything is going to end up in Parliament, we know how they vote.
Thank you so much, Ben. Mheshimiwa, having met you, I've always seen you around, and I appreciate that, like my brother has said, you're a humble man, and we appreciate that. On the issue of the IBC, I think I may not dwell that because the Waheshimiwa are the one who are mandated to look into that, and they're also looking into their interest in above come to 2027. As you look into what we are in Kenya Kwanza government, it needs to deliver its mandate that it's promised to people, and that has to go to the tenure of the President William Ruto in 10 years term. But that doesn't mean that he won't have opposition here and there with people. Having said that is to know that he has to put up a set that can favor him in 2027, which is IBC, which is also a good thing or a bad thing altogether. Because when you look at the current chair, came in due with the Jubilee government or even earlier, and has delivered from the days of President Uhuru Kenyatta and to now William Ruto. Time has come for him to exit, and the person who was next to be the chair could be the vice chair is Cherera. Cherera demonstrated that he's not comfortable with the way the election was done this current term of 2022. So the best thing to do and prudent thing to do for a regime or for a government that is in place is to put all his angle and frames into better use, so that when come 27, if they won't have finished their mandate, they will have advantage over the other who are coming in. The issue of IBC has been with that for the last 6 years now going down, because there was the issue of Chebukati and the team. There were, you remember the Machozi Friday and I think Monday, it was all about IBC. And what IBC did this time, personally, Mheshimiwa, I was in the other side of Azimio, but now I have to support the government, because even the Bible, you say you're a Christian, commands us to honor those who are in authority and support them, so that our lives can be easy. So I have no other mandate but to support the government. But that doesn't mean that we can't look into other things that can really, Mheshimiwa cannot say, because when you look at the parliament, like you say in the tyranny of numbers, there are things that Mheshimiwa cannot say, because he is mandated to collectively support the government. But remember, the parliament, judiciary and the executive are three arms of the government. But we are seeing in a case where every other arm of the government is called in for to support the executive, which is actually a good thing, but not a good thing per se, because each arm of the government is supposed to negotiate with the other, so that the Wanjiko who mandate them or who give them the power can get the real effect of it. So for me, IBC is being prepared for 2027, which is also a good thing, because probably some of us, including yourself, you could be participating in this IBC. So if we have an IBC which will favor you, and an IBC that will favor Mheshimiwa, an IBC that will deliver to the mandate given by the Constitution of Kenya, why not? Yes.
That's a good way to look at it, but we are always, what guarantee do we have that as soon as we have a clean IEBC, we will not have people who want them to exit, because it has recurred, it has been recurring. And I actually commend Wafula Chebukati, because Wafula Chebukati must go, just was there in 2017, was there before 2022, but he held strong and he has finished he has finished the race, just like we say in the Bible. What guarantee do we have that the political dynamics in the country do change? People move from one divide to another, and especially when we get near the general election. What guarantee do we have that the next lot or the next people in government or opposition will not say, we don't want anything to do with these IEBC commissioners? What guarantee do we have? Because all they have is the security of 10 of the 6 years.
The issue is with human beings. Everything you see, including all the technical or the machineries that we have, they have got a human subject in it. And that goes to say that when you're given a mandate, you have to negotiate with the people who are involved in that. Even if you put IEBC anew, as the clamor is going on and the motion was put in parliament and now the tribunal is formed, because they are Kenyans, they are obligated to change allegiance. Even if this person was yours this time, he might not be your person the other time. So it's not a 100% guarantee that you're going to get the best that you wanted. The only thing you can do in this issue, dealing with human beings and element of politics and governance, is how do you negotiate? For example, Dr. William Ruto today, the President of the Republic of Kenya, came in as the head of the government now. But in the element of the functions of the government, there are people who have been there, the civil servants. Many expect an automatic delivery from his side. But he and Mheshimiwa knows so well, you have to negotiate with these people who have been there so that you can give the mandate to the people and deliver to the actuals that you had promised. So it's not a walk in the park. The same way you pick IEBC on calling them your people. They might deliver the mandate, or they might deliver you to where you want, but mostly what you do with them is that you negotiate. Now the challenge is you pick your people who in their hearts are not as you think they are. Okay, then along the way, halfway they change allegiance or alliance, because it can happen, because we are going to see a crop of leaders. Actually 70%, and Mheshimiwa would bear me witness, of parliamentarians don't come back. So even the people who voted for this current government might not vote for him come 2027. And some of the people who will be picked now, because of the excitement of what is going to happen, might change allegiance going to 2027. What does that mean? It is even better for now, for any negotiation that is going to be there. And Mheshimiwa is here, is listening to us, you and I, because we mandated them to go to parliament and as the arm of the government to do the best, and Mheshimiwa is doing the best. Pick from the people that you even expect that they're not supporting you. Because once they know what kind of a person there is, and I pick that from the Abraham Lincoln's element of leadership, those people who really don't support you might be a better friend of you than the one who you work with daily. Because they actually have not worked with you, but they have seen the loopholes that you need to seal. So in IBC, and putting IBC in place right now, let it not be a complete composition of the people who support the government now. Let's have experts who have the element of governing an election through the constitution that can deliver to Kenyans, not to the president or to the Waheshimiwas or to the interest they are invested. Yeah, that could be my take.
And Mheshimiwa, let's now switch gears a little bit in regards to keeping your Kenya Kwanza government in check. Something that has happened is that we didn't expect what happened by President William Ruto saying that he is supporting the establishment of the office of the leader of official opposition. That is one thing that a lot of people didn't expect from the government. And another thing is supporting demonstrations in regards to keeping the government in check in matters electoral, in matters governance. This is something, there's a paradigm shift in how we are doing politics.
Let me remind you one thing. The only organized sober president we may be having is Dr. Ruto. Let me give you reasons.
Yes,
having an opposition office is trying to structure the government now. Remember, as we speak currently, we have a president. Now the loser, who is the second immediate follower, he has no office, he has nothing to do. That's why we are seeing now, as early as after 4 months to after election, we are starting having rallies. Are you seeing the logic? Now, developing an office of the opposition leader is trying to structure the opposition party and its members to do checks and balances with this government. Now, in that way, they will be busy. In that way, remember, the same government will be paying them. But for now, you see, without a handshake, Raila should be in the streets, which is very wrong. Not only that, in the future, it's good, remember the BBI, even if it was never come to, it's a dream which never come to be realized, it had a lot of changes in the constitution. If you see now what the president is trying to do, is picking the most critical elements that changes our country that to be amended. I can give you an example. We are trying to develop remember we are having challenges in gender issues. We don't attain the requirement of gender in both houses. Now, if we can anchor that in the constitution, remember last parliament, Maraga declared a constitutional parliament. That thing still is there, remember? If we cannot solve this, such a small errors, we'll be working unconstitutionally to me. Now, by initiating, the president cannot initiate a process of constitutional amendment. But for example, myself, I have a bill. I want to do an amendment of counties. I want Kisii County is a very big county, has 9 constituencies. By carving some of the constituencies to form a county, which is Gucha, that will affect an amendment in the constitution. We have CDF. As we speak now, CDF, we are trying to struggle. CDF is not here nor there. Now we want to make it, at least it's now a fund which is anchored in the constitution. We have had several constitution amendments which are rising. In that connection, as a good normal person, let's create an opposition office that once the second runner-up has lost direction, he will be having an office, he will be organizing himself, he will be having now a structured way of working with these opposition party members to check, to make sure that the government is working to attain what he promised to the Kenyans. That's my suggestion.
Allow me to interject just a little bit, Mheshimiwa, and allow me to disagree with you about two things that you've mentioned there. One is the soberness of the president. Number two is the issue of the opposition note, or the opposition office. Remember, if, and with all due respect to my president, if he's a sober most president that Kenya has ever had,
very sober.
We have had the BBI. The BBI had proposed the opposition leader office with all the mandate. But instead of supporting it, and the president has been in the government for the last 29 years, he opposed it. Now, the reality has hit him and realized, I cannot govern this country if I don't keep my opposition leader in check and provide him with an avenue where he can be putting things across. Because today, if there could be people on the street, this country cannot govern. So in terms of soberness, he will acquire it, but not that he has it. Now, on the, if I remind you, when this country, and we were celebrating Jamhuri the other day, what was it?
The day before yesterday.
The day before yesterday. This country was formed 59 years ago. And what by people who went to the bush, they fought for independence. There are people who went to school and schooled matters governance. They were not picked from anywhere. And we have the top cream, people who were there and who led this country into a way that it was compared to Asian tigers by them. Then we can say those people were sober people. And their interests were not on their own. And I would share with Mheshimiwa, say, Mheshimiwa is a very humble person. And everyone knows, and he has mentioned it here. But most of the people that are in the government today, it is the issue of, do you know anybody? Okay? And that is where, us who were in Azimio, and we are supporting this government, we disagree totally. Because when you look at the opposition leader, had the BBI gone through, and remember, the president has no mandate to initiate a constitutional amendment.
And even the Apex Court did say that.
Exactly. So in soberness, soberness calls in for the memory check. What did I say the other time? What did I say the other year? What did I say 5 years ago? So that if it is about soberness, he will initiate a person like Kamau, who actually did vote for him, and tell Kamau, we need to change this constitution because you need an opposition. Number two, what is this now rush of giving people positions, and Wanjiku has not been served? Because when we were doing campaign, the Kenya Kwanza government told us, hii serikali itakuwa ni ya mama mboga, mwana boda boda. Those are the people we want into the seats, not the opposition leaders. And we are saying that, Mheshimiwa, because we want to see an element of those people who are downtrodden, understanding the governance of this country, being encouraged to note and come in the place of power. Because I tell you, where I'm seated today with Mheshimiwa, with all the due respect and honor, I can access power easily than the person who is at Buda Buda. So what am I saying? Let's not go for the opposition leader. Let's not give him an office. That money or that economy that is being channeled to him, let him do what, because our constitution does not provide that seat. Let's work with Wanjiku, period. And when Wanjiku is served, Wanjiku will even say, we need now a president, an opposition leader, a prime minister, and such. So, Mheshimiwa, when you look at this matter that are cropping it now, that's why I said 70% of the people who voted for this government might not vote for the government. So what am I saying? Let's work with Wanjiku. Let's work with what we have now, and not rush to amend the constitution or bills in parliament that will even hurt the economy more, because people are suffering. Today, the petroleum industry, the products are up. the cost of living, the unga that was presented, that will be 70% once the president lifts us the Bible, it has hit 200. And we are going to Christmas. People have no food. Yesterday I was watching Mount Elgon, people living in a cave, and we are talking about doing opposition leader post.
Okay.
Mheshimiwa,
Before Mheshimiwa.
I want to disagree with him.
Okay, fine. You can have that. That's okay.
Just few seconds. Number one, the BBI itself, the component of it, some elements were good, but most of it were bad. I can give you an example. The BBI suggested in the Kisi region, in terms of constituencies, to divide only one constituency, whereby most of the constituencies like Bobasi, they are the leading in terms of population. They were not dividing Bobasi, but they were dividing another constituency. It was not a genuine document. Personally, I read it last time. The better part of BBI was not good.
But Mheshimiwa, in Parliament you voted yes, right?
No, let me tell you. The reason why it never came to light at the end of the day, because it was not a good document. What the president now is doing is just identifying critical areas. Remember, the only office he may be creating is the opposition leader. But
It should
BBI,
not, because
the BBI had a lot of offices. But another thing I want to tell him, let me tell you why I tell you Dr. Ruto is the soberness we have. He's a person who understands what the Kenyan common mwananchi wants. Look at the few 100 days, I can call him 100 days in the office. The reason why we have high fuel cost in Kenya, it was created by the last government. The subsidy that's supposed to be going to the production side is given at the end of the product. For example, I want to pick unga. The last government had subsidy in the unga, but you see the current government has removed that one to fertilizer. What does it mean? Yeah, he wants for Kenyans to produce more for future, not to. We don't lack food in future.
I think, yes, indeed, he has said that. But it has also raised some eyebrows in terms of the maize that our farmers are actually farming. Because the day before yesterday, he did talk about 10 million bags of assorted maybe cereals and foodstuffs.
But those are areas which can be rectified.
Indeed. But you know, when the president says that word has to go, and even his MPs from the Kenya Kwanza divide, they had a presser to say that government, we really need first of all to buy our maize before we can think about exportation. It's something that brews some heat, and even the president had to, your PGM had to say, guys, don't be swayed, because this is one of the things that can sway that.
Remember, we are human beings, we are born to make mistakes. Importation of maize, I was here categorically said, let's force the government to purchase maize from farmers of Kenya. Once we maximize, we utilize the available resources we have within our country, if it becomes less, then we can import. So
your sentiments are, first of all, let's buy all the maize
let's buy from farmers.
Before we can think about...
Yes, let the farmers benefit from the fruits of the government they voted for before we think of importing from another country. That's the reason why you saw some members of parliament supporting that thing. Remember, that was a statement which came from the from the minister in charge. But at long last, at the end of the tail, it was suspended.
Okay, just a minute.
Just 1 minute, so that I work with Mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa has said that BBI was not good because Kisi was getting one.
He said some of the parts are good.
It cannot be. It cannot be. It is not good when it does not serve the interest. If we were to negotiate about the office of the opposition leader, we, the Mount Kenya region, we want to have one man, one vote, 1 shilling. Then we can pass this thing. That's what I wanted to say.
Okay, for now, let's now bring in Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is an expert in matters governance. And okay, I'm informed by my director you need to rectify something. But before we do that, Engineer, as we await for the technical hitch to be rectified, I would like you to marinate on the issue of the leader of official opposition. It's a good thing that the two gentlemen here have a diverse view on that. It's not enshrined in the Constitution, but the president has pledged to support that, just to underscore how he wants his government to be put in check. Kindly. And also we also be looking at the IEBC reforms, which yesterday IEBC said during their post-election post-mortem said that the weak link is Bunge. And it's a good thing that Mheshimiwa has also observed that in 2020, when CJ Emeritus David Maraga said that this bunge is unconstitutional because it hasn't met the threshold of the constitution. But that we'll be talking about that. Mheshimiwa, you are supporting the establishment of that office that is not in the constitution, and Kamau argues that this will also bring in an additional cost for the taxpayer, because by being an office it means that you have to have all the echelons of power.
Let me tell you one thing, two wrongs will never make a right. He introduced us something like BBI, but now BBI is gone. We cannot talk about it.
It's a done deal.
Now,
you can only refer.
Currently, what we are trying to do is to structure the future government. The president wants to solve problems we are experiencing. I'll give you an example. It's just 4 months down the track, but we are experiencing some political hits, some political rallies from an unstructured way. If we have this office in place, remember now, when the president is ascending to power in office, the opposition leader will be having an office. He will be organizing things from office in a structured way, anchored in the law, structured, protected by the law. Note that you compare now and when you have that office. To me, the office will solve a lot of messes in future. We are trying to look what will happen in the future generation. We are trying to avoid. I'll give you an example that the only disputed elections is only president. The entire period, the entire positions which we do elections, starting from MCA to governors, once somebody has been announced, you go to court. If you lose, nothing more, nothing less. But wait for the next time. But for a president, it always have problems in, out, day in. For us to solve that one, let's create an office for anybody who will be losing as an opposition leader to have an office to organize himself from that office, check the government well,
when you
make sure that
when you look at it,
yes, John.
And I'm just saying in simple manner, because I'll be coming to you when I want to do a private member bill, because I know you will listen to me. What I'm saying is this: let's have the opposition leader's office. It will solve so many things in terms of governance and economy. But there's one thing that it will not solve. When we were doing BBI, and you're a part of the BBI, it was said, when we solve the issue of 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, you won't mind, or the country won't mind who is the president, who is the opposition leader, because Wanjiku, from where they sit, they will be served well. But now, if we don't solve this idea of 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, even if we have 100 opposition leaders and the president, every other community will be, and that's what President Uhuru Kenyatta used to say, every other community will be looking upon who is their president, who is at
one vote, not the best.
All right. Gentlemen, wow, it's quite generating a debate. But first of all, let's take a quick break, just in case you joined us. I'm joined by 3 gentlemen. We are looking at the state of the nation and especially politics in the country. And also, we will be looking on the second hour at the USA-Africa relations on a keen view, because it started yesterday, today, and also tomorrow. Just a way of the United States galvanizing their support. I will be telling you more about it when we come back. But for now, let's have that quick break. Welcome back. This is KBC News Check, and during our break we're having a discussion here with my panelists, and you have seen that today we are having a big match. That is the great Morocco, who will be fighting it out for the last final slot with the world champions themselves, the World Cup finalists in 2019, that is the great country of France. Remember, that match will be live on all our radio stations and also on KBC Channel 1, so make a date. But for now, we are looking at the state of the nation, and also we'll be looking at the US-Africa Summit. A lot is being mooted and a lot has been discussed already, but today and tomorrow will culminate into a number of activities which we will be looking at a little bit later. But for now, we are looking at the state of the nation right here in the country. And joining me, Alpha Miruka, who is the MP for Bomachoge, Chache. We have also Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a governance expert, and also Kamau, who is also a political commentator. And gentlemen, before the break, we were looking at a number of issues in the country, and especially on the office of the official opposition leader. And Crispus, I would like to engage you in that conversation. It's something that my panelists here, one supports, the other one says, well, we do not need that office right now. But what is evident is that even the president himself supports the idea of having the leader of official opposition, despite the fact that it's not quite enshrined in law. There are a number of ways that we can also make that happen. I would like to pick your mind on that.
Thank you, Sana Njue, and good morning, Kenyans. For me, I think I've had a chance to interrogate this constitution previously when I was part of the Punguza Mizigo movement. And one of the issues that we were trying to address when we were pushing for the Punguza Mizigo is having constitutional offices that are not controlled by who is president or who is in government at the time, but that are offices that can be able to work for the interest of the Kenyans regardless of which administration is in place. And one of the offices that we found that was missing was the office of the official opposition. And that role probably is supposed to be played by the minority leader in parliament. But as you've seen with the experience we had last year of where, or the last time we had the opposition joined government through the handshake, and that killed the role of the official opposition or the minority leader. And therefore it's important that we have a properly constituted properly mandated office of the official opposition, so that whoever will want to support government, there will be now a vacancy created for a person who will be able to check government, whether the opposition wants to work with the government. If you move, then that office becomes vacant, and a person who is constitutionally mandated to be the opposition leader is able to occupy it, so that the government of the day is able to be checked. Without any checks and balances, we'll have the same problems we had in the Jubilee handshake administration, where the government did whatever it was able to do because nobody was able to check it. And even those who were claiming to be the opposition, who are part of government, they didn't have the mandate, the constitutional mandate to check the government. And therefore it's important right now we have a government that is the opposition that is able to check the government, and that position is in the constitution in a way that whatever statements they make or demands they make, the government has a responsibility to fulfill them or to look into them. We have an issue of hunger today. We have an issue of cost of living today. But the only voice we hear about from the opposition is about Cherera and IEBC. We are not hearing them make enough noise about the issue of food and the cost of living.
And it's a good thing that Engineer brought about some of the things that the president did talk about in terms of the office, because there are now, 91 days since Kenya Kwanza took over government?
Almost 100 days.
Almost 100 days. And just like Kamau said, we were expecting, in terms of governance, we were expecting the president to actualize his words where he talked about the government being for the Mamamboga and for the Jamaa and Nduthi. And I remember somebody said, more or less it was a figure of speech, but I said there are Mamambogas wamesoma, there are border guys who are learned, they have degrees themselves, but they have not even been included, and we are 100 days. We were waiting for at least a cabinet slot for the common mwananchi, for the Wanjiku. That never happened. We have seen the PSs. The PSs now they have already taken office. They had even been challenged. That petition had been taken to court in regards to regional balance, gender, or the affirmative action. But that was not actualized. It's 91 days, Mheshimiwa. It's just a week, and then we will have a big scorecard to look at what you've done in 100 days.
Let me tell you, you have done a lot. If you don't see them, they cannot kill.
You're saying the glass is half full, but it's still half empty.
The Kenya Kwanza government has implemented that. Let me remind you a few.
Yes.
It just recently, as we speak now, we have Hustlers Fund, which is the best idea. Let me tell you.
But we really need for it to sink in, because it hasn't really touched
it's sinking,
the ground.
I'm telling you, in 10 days, in 10 days, more than 15 million Kenyans have been registered.
You believe that the Hustler Fund will keep up the tempo?
But it will keep up the tempo. Take it from me, let me tell you.
We have seen the Youth Fund, we have seen a lot of funds which have not quite done what they were supposed to do.
But remember the difference between this and the Youth Fund and the other funds. These are revolving fund with an interest which keeps on maintaining this fund to eternity. Let me tell you one thing.
Fine, fair enough. It's quite early to demonize it.
It's quite early.
Yeah.
But remember, that's one promise which has been accomplished. Before it has been accomplished. As we speak now, farmers are receiving fertilizer. We have received that as fund. Every now cabinet, I can call now the structure of the government is almost 90% complete. This the time now you start experiencing the effects of this government. But in 100 days, I can count for you. For example, you see in fact every week, the Minister for ICT is opening a free Wi-Fi in every market in Nairobi. We are trying to create a super highway for internet. We are trying to digitize this country. By the end of specific period, call it 6 months or 1 year, 90% of government operations will be digital. That's what I'm telling you. The only super president we have now is Dr. Ruto. The man who understands the problem of Kenyan Mwananchi. I want to cite an example of the president we had called the late Mwai Kibaki. Mwai Kibaki is the one who introduced CDF. Mwai Kibaki is the president who made Kenyans realize that we can be rich, we can be able to afford, we can be able to do business with the government. He outsourced every government aspect compared to the government of Moi. The government of Moi was doing everything. If we had the presidents who are coming like the mind of Kibaki, this Kenya, let me tell you, in 20 years time will be more than South Korea. If you have the history of South Korea, we were at the same level in 1960s. But now South Korea is 100 times ahead of us because of structured way, implementing things, doing things in a very professional way. In 100 days, with this Kenya Kwanza government, we have done a lot.
Kamau, you wanted to chip in. Before Mheshimiwa had completed, it must have been something that you see Kenya Kwanza hasn't done yet.
My good friend Mheshimiwa want us to take a gospel home. And this gospel that you want us to take home is that President William Ruto, our current president, is the most sober president. You keep on repeating that it might not go well. What the president needs to do now is to negotiate with the entire country. Negotiate with them, tell them in soberness, like you're saying, in soberness, this is what I want to do, this is what I've managed to do, data are there to see, but not to assume that what he says or what he has said or you, the Kenya Kwanza government supporters are saying is what the real Wanjiko want. We are living in a time where Wanjiko is not a person you tell, I'll bring you internet and say that is what I wanted. I'll give you fertilizer. That is what I wanted. The reason why the Jubilee government, which President Ruto was part of it, actually was the second in command, is because it came in with a lot of infrastructure. Kenya is so well versed in infrastructure. Kenya is so well versed in internet that is saying every village has a fiber connection. That was through the advantage of President Uhuru Kenyatta in the aid of Deputy President then William Ruto. What am I saying?
Let me inject.
Let me finish this statement so I don't lose there, because I want. I'm actually trying to get an entry on how I can support your government, which is trying so hard to explain on the things that it wants to do. This Hustler Fund, the Bible says that we all quote that a person who lends to you, you've become a lender. Is somehow you are the slave of person who lends you money. Hustler Fund is good, but this Hustler Fund needs to actualize a way that when you get it at the first time, you can be in a position of advancing your life. I can tell you what Hustler Fund did and is as a frame now is just a trial and error. It is not well thought structure. In terms
with fairness, maybe we can wait for
exactly. That's what I'm saying.
You can give us a scorecard after 3 months.
That's what I'm saying. Mheshimiwa, let us not hear that President Ruto, who is on the throne now, is the most sober one. Because I'll take you back to Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta and those element of leaders who are there, Akina Simon Nyachae, Akina Jenga, all those people, they did all they could so this country in silence that can be where it is today, because it needed a firm foundation. That is what we are sitting on. But when we see a celebration like Jamhuri Day, instead of elementing what this country has been and what we are building on, we are seeing some comedies around, and we are valuing people from outside and not forgetting the leaders, forgetting our heroes. We are losing grounds in terms of foundation. Anyway, if we move from the foundation of this country to other foundations trying to make it now, we may have a loose ground. So am I saying, let's build on what has been. Let's improve on that. That is what will give us soberness. Not when we start now doing other foundation or who are heroes in terms of our, as an African or as Kenyans or as a region, so that we can move forward. But this idea of picking this and putting it, saying about internet, saying about Google, saying these things are not bringing us foundation. These things are not going to grow our youth.
Lily wants to differ with you on that. There's something that you wanted to interject,
yes.
And you have the opportunity now.
Yeah, I wanted to tell him, his idea is very right. But there is no way you will work in this country without an internet. Most of young people depend on internet. We have areas in this country that people don't have internet at all. We have, the reason why is trying to say that the last government did a lot of connectivity. I can ask you, maybe here in Central, the mountain is always blessed. But if you go to other places, my friend, you find there is a school that people still, students learn on a tree. If students are learning on a tree, that means they don't afford even a classroom. What does it mean? We are now developing. We are now making things to happen. The only difference, I'm telling you, why I call Dr. Ruto as a sober guy, is seeing these problems. And is trying to manipulate a technology or a methodology that is going to solve these critical problems affecting the common mwananchi. That's why he started with the Hustlers Fund. Let me tell you, be a member of Hustlers Fund. Because as an individual, you are supposed to borrow up to 50,000 as your credit history. Let me tell you, we have a lot of things happening, including Frisa now, including you, I don't know, every Kenyan is in Frisa, but do you know how much Frisa is taxing per month? It's a lot of money. Now we have given an alternative that why are you borrowing 10,000 from Frisa, borrow 10,000 from Hustlers Fund, do the business, refund it after 7 days, 14 days, and again your credit value will keep on growing.
We actually hoping let's hear what Crispus has to say in regards to the scorecard. We are doing 91 days or thereabout. We are shy of maybe a week and some days to hit 100 days, and there are things that the government did promise that they will actualize within 100 days. I would like to pick your mind on how the scorecard has been. We've had a few issues here and there. Mheshimiwa talking about, yes, we are firmly on course, but Kamau is talking about how we may have misplaced priorities.
I think for this administration, we probably might be too early to judge them because of the timelines that we are looking at. But I think also there are some deliverables. For example, the issue of fertilizer that has been delivered, the issue of the Hustler Fund. But the thing we cannot be able to determine is the impact of these deliverables to the lives of many Kenyans. The one thing we are very sure is that the cost of fuel is still high, and the cost of living is very high, which is something that they promised to deliver, but they haven't done that. Kenyans have given them a bit of room to say we are not able because of 1 and 2 and 3. But I think that window is shutting down, and probably as early as February next year, Kenyans will not take any excuse. They will be looking for real results, because if it's an issue of fertilizer, then we expect a harvest as early next year from the fertilizer you gave us in August and September. If it's the issue of Hustler Fund, we want to see some lives having improved because of the money they have received from the Hustler Fund, and therefore when it comes to January and February, Kenyans may be able to sustain their living from the benefits of the hustler fund. So the window for that tolerance that Kenyans have in terms of this government not being able to deliver is closely shutting down. The other thing also is that the administration is just probably a few days now in full formation with the pieces coming in place. So we need to give them time to be able to now sit down and align the vision of the president, who is the vision bearer, and his men and women who are going to deliver on that. So there are many pronouncements being made. There are many things being perceived to be done, but now the tangible benefits of whatever we are perceiving has not yet come around. So Kenyans still need to give this a bit of time, but that time is really running out of place. Yes.
And I'll come back to Mheshimiwa, because looking at the 100 days, and it's a good thing engineer has mentioned that we might be judging the government, but the government really needs time. Let us look at the opposition. In as much as we are talking about we need to establish the office of the official opposition leader, in your view, has the opposition played their oversight role well? Because some Kenyans would argue, other than castigating the importation of maize, and also in urging, we've seen the opposition urging the Kenyans not to repay the hustler funds. In your view as Mheshimiwa, has the opposition in those 100 days played their oversight role the way they should?
To me, 0%. I can term them. We are an unfortunate country that we are having all the time opposition that is very selfish.
Okay, kindly hold the thought as we look at how the opposition is. We really need to have that quick break, but we'll be right back. Remember, this is KBC News Check. Welcome back to KBC News Check, and I can't re-emphasize enough that all African eyes will be on Morocco as they face world champions France. That a tantalizing match that you cannot afford to miss. Remember, it will be live on KBC. World Cup equal KBC. Something else that is on KBC is the live conversation that we are having here with my panelists, which is becoming more interesting as we move on. And before the short break, we were looking at the role of opposition in 100 days that Kenya Kwanza, almost 100 days that Kenya Kwanza has been in office. And of course, we'll also be touching on devolution and the US-Africa Summit that is happening thousands of miles away, but it's gonna be affecting you, even if you live in the remotest part of Kenya or Africa as well. Let me remind you, my panelists, we have Alpha Miruka, Honorable Alpha Miruka Mheshimiwa is the MP for Bomachoge, Chache. We have Kamau, who is a leadership and governance expert, and also we have Engineer Crispus Wathimba, who is a leadership and governance expert as well. Before we had the break, Mheshimiwa, I had asked you in regards to checking Kenya Kwanza government. Do you believe the opposition has done what it should have done in 90 days? We have seen a number of pronouncements by the opposition talking about the war. Of course, they have vehemently opposed the GMO importation in the country. They have also talked about, they advised their Kenyans for the hustler funds, you know, those are some of the pronouncements that have been made in the last 90 days.
I think we may be unlucky as a country. We have not found a good opposition side. An opposition side is an opposition side managing the affairs of the common mwananchi. But the current opposition party we have now, I call him an intimidating opposition. Why? Is there to make sure that is trying to fault the government, abuse the government, for the government to call them. Once they are being called and they are being shared the cake under the table, they will keep quiet. And I want to give you an example. In the last parliament, the era was very vibrant. But after the handshake, we had no opposition. We had a government come opposition government. If you see now, the Right Honorable Dr. Ruto, he has said there's no handshake. That means the opposition cannot eat from the government. Now they are trying to craft a method that how can we boost this government for us to get food from there? That's my view. But we should be having a opposition side that should check, monitor the government affairs, that to make sure that common mwananchi is getting what it deserves. The promises that the government made during campaign, are they being implemented in the right way? Everything the government is doing, how does it affect the common mwananchi? That's the opposition we need. Not the opposition that once I make noise, I'll be called in the office. There is a under the table negotiations, then I keep quiet.
And
to
in
me,
your view,
we don't have an opposition.
What exactly have they been objective in so far?
They are very selective. For example, now they are very serious about the Chereras, the commissioners, because the Chereras were from their side. If you keenly listen to what they are arguing, you cannot get the reason. We should be fighting, all of us, both the government and the opposition, having an independent body that will solve problems of which emerges in every half direction. But now we are fighting that the Cherera should not go, Cherera should not sign. You see, the idea, the small things that we are fighting for, they are not affecting the entire system in the government.
But let us look at something that Kenyans could say that the opposition has been objective in, and that is the importation of GMO. A lot of Kenyans, both in the political divide, have varied or diverse views in regards to the GMOs. And the opposition was the first to say, no. The trade minister cannot do that. The government cannot be importing GMOs. First of all, they had health concerns. And another thing, they had concerns because this maize is being imported at a time when our farmers are also harvesting.
Let me tell you, it's going to tell me that don't drink this water. Give me reasons why. This water is bad. Explain to me for me to understand not to drink this water. Let me... Right Honorable Raila Odinga is the guy in record who was supporting GMO very well. But because now the current government has lifted the ban of GMO and they have now decided to accepting the importation of GMO, automatically will come to the opposition side of opposing. Let him oppose with the reasons why. He should explain to us what made the GMOs be banned. What was the reasons? Categorically, even the common man will say, this GMO is bad. The government is doing a mistake. That's what I am anticipating to have. But not that because you are in the government, your idea is yes, then I should come to know. No. Let's have reasons why we are saying anything we utter from our mouths.
Is there a way that you can say that, or something that the opposition has been objective in, and what in a between 1 and 10 scorecard?
I can give them 2%.
2%
for the living. For example, the fuel. I can agree with the engineer saying that fuel, still we are living in hard times economically. Our food prices are high. The fuel prices are not low. Even if we have tried, the president has tried to bring a fertilizer to boost production, to remove subsidy from fuel. But you see the living standards, Kenyans are really struggling. Now, the challenge here, that let's give the government time to evaluate critically, because remember, the last government made a lot of damages into the government. We are in debts. Let me tell you today, we collect around 2 trillion Kenyan shillings. You find all the money Kenyans, the government collects from Kenya, it 100% go to recurrent and debts. That means, how can we going to survive? That's the reason why we must pray for the current president to be very creative, very innovative, for this country to move ahead. If now we find an opposition that is assisting the government in terms of checks and balances to make sure that this country will never remain the same, let me tell you, in 20 years' time, Kenya will be very shiny.
All right. The opposition, and you had supported Azimio, and I'm quite sure there are some remnants of Azimio in your system. So how would you rate the opposition? How have they been in the last 90 days? We're talking about close to 100 days. And in 100 days, the government should be put in check. What would you say, or what are your views in regards to how the opposition has conducted itself in their mandate to oversight the government?
Thank you. Before I answer that from your level, I want to interject a bit about what Mheshimiwa has said. Mheshimiwa has said he can only rate them at about 2 2%. Yeah. And the same opposition are the same they are proposing to give an office. So when they are not doing their mandate and all they want is to just charge the government so that can get something. What expectation or what results are you going to get if you give them an office? And when you give them an office, giving them an office because you have not done what they can do or that they are doing until the time they restructure themselves into doing good, Mheshimiwa. Because if you say they are not doing anything and the government is doing something, so there is no need for any opposition leader's office.
Giving them 2%, they are doing something.
All right.
But they should scale up in a good direction.
Exactly. But that won't come because you've given them an office. Because from your part, the opposition, they had interest with the government. That is why they wanted to join the government. The current government had interest with the government. That's why they managed to join the government. This is what they are mandating. This is what they are delivering to the people. And that must be only left to the Wanjiko, not to serve the leaders. That is my position. And I cannot talk much about the opposition and what they can do and what they've done, because currently, me, I'm not in the opposition. My current MCA is UDA. My MP is UDA. My senator is UDA. My women rep is UDA. My senator is UDA. And my president is what? UDA. What does that mean? I'm in Kenya Kwanza umbrella, though you can say I have got Azimio blood in me, I'm well served. And what I need to do, extending from there, is to the interest of the people of Kangema, Muranga, and Mount Kenya region. And the plot that is there, when you join the government, them who are from other regions, they want Mount Kenya to wait on them, as he had said, that there are places where there are no schools, but they need internet. What am I saying? I'm saying this, where Mount Kenya region interest is served well, through our kingpin now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, there I will be. And if there is anything that is being done against our interest as the people of Mount Kenya, there I will say that is not supposed to be. For example, this opposition leader office, and I repeat it again, if you match it with 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote, we the Mount Kenya people, even who are not in the government, we will wholly support it. Now, when it comes to giving them seats and you're not serving the majority of Wanjiko in Mount Kenya, there I would disagree with the government. And that is why I have to keep on saying, my president, Dr. William Ruto, here, the issues of Mount Kenya, from where I see it, comes first. The issues of the country comes second, are secondary to the affairs. The issue of fertilizer, it has not gotten into a law cause. So when the fertilizer gets into the country and where it goes, we need to know where it's going. This hustler fund, the people of Mount Kenya are really hustlers because they do small small business. But instead of telling Kenyans, I will rate you the wholesomely that you can only get 500, rate them according to the credit banking statement they have. Say you can get 10,000 for the start, so that can make you advance your life. But if I give you 500 without rating you, and I give you that money, that is why the other day the president was saying it's only a percentage that has not come back, but it will come back. Ideally, the government is doing best, because from where I come from my constituency, we can see what the government is doing in the framework that it has put to work. But that does not mean that we don't need an opposition. And Mheshimiwa here is saying the opposition are just charging so that they can see what they can be given. Mheshimiwa, that is not a very good attitude toward the people who wanted to join the government. Because today, the only person who can say that Nairobi won't operate is Raila Amolo Odinga. That gift to him. So how do we need to work with him along? Is one, appreciate his effort. That he did 6.9 million. And the current government got 7.2 squarely.
That's why we give him an office.
Now, you give him an office
in charge, and
just
he
know
will be looking
that
at
behind him, even if they don't have the instrument of power, at least rate them at 5%.
Okay, let's hear from engineer on the other side. And engineer, we are looking at 100 days. And we are almost 100 days. But first I would like you to rate the opposition, and are they being quite objective in the last 90 plus days in oversighting the government? We have seen the views in regards to the high cost of living. They want the subsidies back, and I'm quite sure a lot of Kenyans would want that. And they're also talking about the maize. They have issues with the GMO maize and also importation of maize in the country, the scorecard of opposition, which is keeping Kenya Kwanza in check as we also look at also the counties, because the counties have hit already 100 days, but we have a big challenge in counties. Engineer.
Well, I think looking at the performance of the opposition, maybe just allow me to go to specific areas where I felt they did well or they did badly. When it came to vetting of CSSs, I feel the minority position did very well in terms of interrogating and bringing out the other side of the nominees, so that Kenyans would be able to know what kind of nominees were being nominated to be CSS. And they even had a dissenting position, which was very clear and very good, demonstrated their leadership as the opposition. When it comes to the issue of the GMO, I think Raila and Kalonzo and Martha Karua came out strongly against it. What they did not really demonstrate is that they did not oppose it because of scientific issues, but they fought it because of interest. There were people saying there was already maize at the shores of Mombasa, and why are you saying we are importing maize right now because already you have brought it? We lost the real issues as to why we were opposing GMO, or the possible challenges that GMO would bring to the country, and looked at the political interest as to why they were opposing GMO. Then the other area where I feel they have failed is on the issue of cost of living and fuel. Because there, the government of the day had promised clearly, the moment I put the Bible down, cost of living will come down. But that voice, we never felt it, we never had it, we don't see the opposition really coming out strongly. Unfortunately, the only area we have seen them come out very strongly was on the Cherera 4, which now makes us feel uncomfortable that we had an IEBC clearly which was not independent. There were members of the commission who are affiliated to Azimio, and they are members of the IEBC who are probably affiliated to the government of the day. So that really did not give us confidence in terms of the kind of opposition we have, or the kind of government we would have had if Azimio had won, meaning they did not believe in independent institutions. And therefore, I want to agree with the Mheshimiwa when he says they are also opposing those that be given something so that they can keep quiet. What I'm looking forward to is a country where if you become opposition, you adhere to the values of being an opposition person. And you subscribe to them to the very end, until the point where you will convince Kenyans to vote you to be in government. We need to have people, men and women, that when they occupy an office, they subscribe to the values of that office. If you're a member of a certain commission, subscribe to the value of that office, so that we can be able to trust institutions. Today, we can't trust our opposition, because if they are given something, they will just keep quiet, and that's very unfortunate. And we need an effective opposition, we need an effective media, an effective civil society that can be able to check this government. We may think Ruto is sober, but the men and women behind him may not be sober. They may have excesses of their own, and we will end up with a rogue government. And I think it's important that we have an opposition, so that it can also help Ruto to weed out bad elements within his government that he may not be able to see.
Yes, and we are looking at least almost 100 days that the Kenya Kwanza government has been in power. But also, we are also looking at how the other counties are faring. At least they've hit 100 days, right?
Yes.
Because the governors were sworn in before the president was sworn in. And looking at some counties are doing quite well. They have each and every organ of the government working well. But looking at Meru, is one example that a lot of politics could be detrimental to development. And another county, incidentally, the newest kid on the block, the newest city in the country, Nakuru County, yes. They haven't started out. The first start so far. And even the courts have pronounced themselves on the same. How are we doing in terms of counties? Because that also cascades to what is happening in the national government.
You know, a good leader is measured by how he or she manages stakeholders. The governor for Meru, the governor for Nakuru clearly have demonstrated their inability to manage stakeholders. For the sake of Meru, is just an issue of how do you manage your MCAs so that they can be able to appreciate what you're doing is good for the interests of the county. Whereas for Nakuru, there seems to be a position that is, if I have said this is my position, it is final. I don't need to consult the people. I don't need to engage with the people so that they understand what my vision is. What I'll just call upon the leadership, especially at the county level, just like the president is demonstrating the ability to engage stakeholders. Remember, even when he was releasing the CSS from Azimio, or from the previous government, he established a very cordial working relation between the former CSS and the current one, so that even if they go to this office, they are able to compare notes and be able to help each other in terms of the transition. Susan Keheka also needs to realize the people of Nakuru are a diverse community. You cannot put 70 or 80% one tribe, as much as they might be the majority, but you realize Kenya is not Kenya because of Kikuyus alone or Mount Kenya alone. Kenya is Kenya because of all the communities, all the tribes. In as much as Mount Kenya has contributed big in terms of the economic contribution, but even if you're left alone as Mount Kenya, will you be Kenya? No, you need to appreciate the importance of Kisis and Kikuyus coexisting together. I mean, the Indians who do business in Kisumu, they are the minority. But it's because the Luo people there are able to spend business with the Indians. That's why the Indians are benefiting. If the Indians were left in Kisumu alone, they would not be able to see value in being in Kisumu. The same thing with the Kikuyus in Mount Kenya. They need to appreciate that Kenya is bigger than them. The people in Nakuru also need to appreciate that, Susan Keheka, you are not there as a Kikuyu alone. You need to appreciate the Kisis, the Luos, and the Kalenjins, that they must be part and parcel of your government.
Yes, Kamau.
Engineer, that now hits where we are. That we, the Mount Kenya people, have been there. We were there before 59 years. Our forefathers went to the bush. Some of them lost everything. That is why you hear them say that sisi ni watoto wa Mau Mau. And our deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, he will only refer me, wewe mtoto wa Mau Mau. He will refer to Dendi Nyoro as mtoto wa Mau Mau. Every other tribe in Kenya has got its history and its strength. I remember the words of Professor Onyang' Nyong'o in the previous government of Mwai Kibaki. He said, the business acumen of Kikuyus and the diligence of the Luos combined with others will make this country great. Meaning, when you touch the interest of Mount Kenya region, that is why you saw the Mount Kenya region voting minor and voting Kanini Kega, because they realized in the set of the Kenya Kwanza, there was no Kikuyu. There was actually the Kenya Kwanza MPs were given another.
But that's a very bad notion, eh?
Yeah, let me come there, because engineer,
a lot of tribes.
Build it,
engineer.
We are still waiting for
engineer.
development.
Engineer has touched it.
And pays tax.
When Mheshimiwa was talking about the children who have classes, he compared them with the Mount Kenya, and I was here quietly listening.
And remember, we are looking at an overview of how counties
what we are saying,
not particularly in the Mount Kenya region.
When we are at a debate like this, we have to look at sections. Today, Mombasa is a city. Nairobi started to be a city in the 50s. We have Nakuru as a city and Kisumu. You've not heard the people of Mount Kenya say, we also need a city. I'm giving a general overview and opinion over mentioning, comparing Keheka through the engineer, comparing Governor Keheka and the entire Mount Kenya region, because it is also another good thing to say Governor Kihika must realize that it is not Kikuyu's affairs in Nakuru. That's not also a good thing to say. That's why I'm saying we are all as Kenyans together, because the strength that comes from the Mount Kenya, and engineer has touched it, the contribution to the GDP of this country helps this country manage part of its affairs. The same as other tribes. If you go to Northeastern today, if we don't have Northeastern today, the beef that is needed in this country and in the entire region could not be realized.
All right.
So
I want us to look at general, not exactly. Actually, I singled out Meru and Nakuru because those are the counties which have entirely not started. We have issues with the MCAs in Meru. We have issues with the CECs in Nakuru, and the courts have also pronounced themselves more or less like a force. Now, that is why I want an overview of how
there is no count I can read. Kicked off. The only challenge is the Meru and the Nakuru, they are outgoing.
They are outgoing.
Yeah, now, because I can give an example of Kisii. It has not kicked off. We have a lot of internal rankles.
What is happening?
Yeah, we have a lot of
so it's just to show that we have deep underlying problems at the counties.
No, the challenge I can single out about the governance in terms of counties, the current governor should accept that that office that they have occupied now, they used to be another governor. This governor is not an angel. He must be having some errors. He did a lot of messes. But you cannot sit there in that office, concentrate dealing with the messes of your former governor. Start your new agenda, draw your new guidelines, have your structures of working to implement the people of your county, and then from there you keep on rectifying the mistakes of the former governor in silence, not in public.
Okay, because of the interest of time, and we need to wrap up.
Let me
yes, 1 minute. Yes, as we wrap up,
there's something, there's element of this Kenya Kwanza taking everything to themselves. We need to have separation of power. There is a sector called devolution, and that devolution is headed by the governors and the senators. You have seen MPs taking the mandate of the MCAs, wanting the governor to act on the ideas of the MP. The issue of governance and the issue of devolution should be handled squarely by the governors and the senators. But you've seen the interference of all these, like in Meru, it was pointed that Governor Kawera pointed that the senator of Meru is interfering with the running of the county.
Away from that, now let's look at the common denominator here.
Yes.
How a county is doing vis-a-vis the national government, because at the end of the day, Kenya Kwanza also will be judged by what it has done in 100 days, and the counties as well, they have already done 100 days.
One, there is the issue of the pending bills. All counties and all governors who got in, just even if you did your exact work and it was legit, they said, let's do the audit of all the pending bills.
All right. Yes, because of the time, we have really to wrap up. I would like to give you an opportunity to give a score in terms of how the Kenya Kwanza have done. As we wrap up, we also need to look at the United States Africa Summit.
I want to tell you that as in 100 days, call it 100 days in office, both the county government and national government, they are trying to put their things in order. But for the national government, led by Dr. William Ruto, he has attained to me 30% of the promises. The rest are being laid in the right channel for the common man to fill them. And again, let me tell you, there is no single day you fought today, you experience change tomorrow. Even the economic tough times we are having now, it needs some time for the government to realign, identify the problems, develop a critical path analysis that can solve the problems. For the common man to feel the change, we need some time.
Okay.
For the 100 days, we are there to go. We have done some good work, and I want to assure Kenyans that let's support the government and the opposition leader with the opposition party and opposition people. Let them join the government, check the balances in the government with issues that affect common man.
Thank you so much.
Otherwise, we live in a Kenyan. This Kenyan is ours, and this is our country.
Thank you, Sana. Yes. That is Honorable Alpha Miruka, who is the Member of Parliament for Bomachoge, Chache. Shukran sana, Mheshimiwa. And Kamau, Leadership and Governance Expert. Thank you so much for coming. 2 seconds.
Thank you so much for having me today. and giving me a chance to even appreciate the current government that we have. We are looking forward to most robust parliament, and we are supporting the government as it's mandated by the people, and we are praying for their success. Even if we take 1 or 2 loops, we are looking forward to their success, and we pray for them.
It's a good thing. You from the Azimio divide, but you want to support the government so that we may actualize the agenda. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. I will be joined by engineer and also be joined by a youth leader to just put some things into perspective, because at the end of the day, what we are looking at as a continent, vis-a-vis what we have and what America is doing, there's a paradigm shift. We know that America sees a lot of influence by Russia and also by China in Africa. They have been mooted that a permanent seat for an African nation. Those are some of the things that we'll be looking at in the next 30 minutes also. Thank you so much. Let's have a quick break, then we'll be right back.